Welcome to Halitics on this Tuesday, April 18th. We're going to continue our conversation on gun violence and hopefully solutions to this scourge that is killing Americans of all ages, of all races. We have with us my friend, Councilwoman Zulfat Suara from the Nashville and Davidsonville County Metro Council. Did I get that right, Councilwoman
Yes,
Z?
it's a long one, but yes, you got it out.
I want to thank you so much. I really enjoyed that conversation we had several years ago. You were, I believe, at that point, a candidate, not a councilwoman. Congratulations on that great win.
Thank you, thank you. Can't believe it's almost 4 years ago.
It's very exciting, but a lot of rough times as well. And recently, Nashville suffered a terrible tragedy, like so many other American communities have. Are you all still in mourning there?
Oh yes, yes we are. Yes we are. When anytime you lose life, it's something bad, especially the loss of kids. Any life loss is very hard. But when you have children involved, it's something that you never get over with. And as a mother, you grieve with the parents and the community is still in mourning.
Well, we're going to talk about what happened in Nashville at the end of March, but I want to start with Tennessee. I did invite you on to discuss gun control with my friend Jackie Rowe Adams from Harlem Mother Save last week. You were not available at that point. You've graciously made yourself ready for us today. And we've got another terrible murder massacre that we should talk about in your neighboring state, Alabama. First happened over the weekend at a Sweet 16 party. What's your reaction, Zulfat?
It's an epidemic. As a parent, you're not even sure where your kids should be going to. Our kids are not safe in schools. We're not safe in a bank. We're not staying in the store. We're not safe in the park. And then when teenagers get together to party, that you would think that's something they should be doing. That's their age. That's the time for celebration. And then for them not to be safe there, it's very heartbreaking.
Yeah, no question about that. And I wanted people to see the victims and their names. I know with the Black Lives Matter movement, we say their names because the victims are the ones we have to remember. And I read this story of these four young people, and they just, I mean, look, it's awful. Anyone's killed is terrible. But when it's a young person who has a lot of promise to them and a loving community, I mean, it is absolutely heartbreaking. I just briefly go through some of these folks I was reading about, Councilwoman Z, and you may want to add, but Corbin Holston, this is from Dadeville, Alabama, the victims at the Sweet 16 party at the Mahogany Club. Corbin Holston is a hero. 23-year-old. He was not invited. It was a six for 16-year-olds and high school kids. He went in when he heard about the shooting and actually pushed his sister out of the way, and he sustained the barrage of bullets. Marsha Collins I have to say was a musician, promising musician. Phil Tavius, also known as Phil, was going to Jacksonville State on a football scholarship. And Kiki, I learned less about her, but I understand she was just, everyone loved her, always had a smile. You can see that smile on her
You can
face.
see that in the picture.
Just so
Mhm.
heartbreaking, so wrong. And, no one even knows. The killer has not been even caught. Um, yeah, words fail, but we have to talk about this, Zulfat, because we have to respond.
We have
We
to. We
have to.
have to. We have to. We have to. We really have to. And the craziest thing is that since this happened, there's been some other ones. I mean, it's like an everyday thing. I saw where there's a Maryland, there's Mississippi. It's just it's an everyday thing. You're so worried about your kids even leaving the house. You're so scared to even read the news. It's an epidemic. It's really out of control. And you're talking mass shooting. You're also talking people that are very gone happy, and Remember what happened to Ralph and somebody just knocking on the door. Just I mean, it's just crazy. A pregnant woman was just shot here in Nashville at a Walgreens because somebody thought she was shoplifting. And so I don't know where we're going with all this trigger happiness and people just. So we have to talk about it and we
Well,
have to find solutions and we have to act.
and we do know that when we have smart, sensible gun laws, the
Yes.
murder rates go down. And
It goes
states,
down.
even with
Yes.
the ease of transporting weapons, the states that do have better, tighter laws do have lower murder rates.
Yes, and Tennessee is one of the worst states in our country when it comes to gun laws. We have open carry. You can permitless carry. You don't have to permit to get a permit to have a gun in Tennessee. How crazy is that? I mean, we can carry in the park. We can. It's just no background check, no nothing. We
It
cannot keep going like that.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I don't understand it. I just don't. You actually have well, let's get to some more of these pictures I have and we'll get into it. But I really want to share it because this is not, and you know what? It seems sometimes like it's presented as a black white problem. And you saw the pictures
Mhm.
of those four kids, those were African American kids. The entire community of Dadeville came out to mourn. This is a multiracial community. I wanted to
Yes,
get the picture, and you see lots of
yes,
white folks. You
yes,
see an African
yes,
American man
yes.
grieving, being held. The
Elders.
police chief there is white. He, from what I could understand, showed compassion, showed empathy. So you have a multiracial community in the South coming together, and yet we cannot come together on sensible gun laws. Um, do you want to talk a little bit about that failure, Sulfat?
I don't know. I mean, you've said a lot. Because when you have, even here in Nashville, when you look at the movement that we have, it's a multi-race, multi-generation, multi-faith. And so the problem is our legislators. In my state, as a local official, there's nothing I can do. One of the preemptive laws in Tennessee is that the local legislation cannot do anything about gun laws. Every day in Nashville, people leave their guns in their cars and people steal those guns to commit crimes, and there's nothing we can do at the local level. And so it's all at the state level, but they would not do anything. It's crazy. So we need to find a way to get everyone to be calling these state legislatures and federal legislatures to be able to get them to do something. The killing is too much. And I think that as mothers, that's what we need to do. We need to come together and make sure that we're calling them and talking to them.
Well, the mothers have come together in Tennessee, and I understand that there is hope that there will be some increased background check
Pregnancy. Yes.
requirements. Is that something that you are optimistic will happen, Councilwoman?
I think we should not let up. I think that thanks to the heroic acts of our Tennessee Three and all the people, especially the youth that have come out and protested, kids walking out of school, parents are talking about it. I think we'll have a little bit movement. The governor has come out and said that he's for at least some form of red flag laws for people that have mental illness, but we don't know what the legislators themselves would do. A lot of them have not come out and said they're in support of it. Nothing is moved, nothing is passed yet, as far as I know. And so that's where the pressure has to continue. We will take that, anything, everything. Common sense gun laws is what we need. And everybody says we need to do that. And so we just need to get on them. There is hope. The governor said it, the lieutenant governor said it, but they have to talk to their peers and make sure they actually do it.
Well, we're so grateful to have you joining us this morning, Councilwoman, to talk about the situation there in Tennessee. And it seems clear from what you said, and we're going to continue the conversation, that it's as you said, it's the legislators. It isn't even the people. People talk about these southern voters and what have you, but they're being disserved. Even the conservative ones who, by and large, recognize, and gun owners too, we need
Yes.
better, tighter restrictions on ownership and carry, and yet they can't get the votes through. I want to, and hopefully, well, I'm sorry, you okay? Do you want to?
Yes, I'm fine. Thank
If
you.
you want to grab a glass of water or something, please go
Oh,
for it.
it's all right. Thank you.
So I want to just see if we can show just the victims. We showed the victims in Alabama. Here we have the Nashville victims, and again, very even younger, right? I mean, we saw those
9 years
teens. Here,
old.
the three little uh, pre-teen 8-year-olds, 7-year-olds, and I tried to get their names. Let's see. I do have the names on there. I just am not getting it. I'm going to give everyone the little kids at the bottom's names as well. You see the top, you have the principal, you have, or the head, I guess they called her. You have the custodian, Mr. Hill. You have a teacher, and then the three little children just gunned down. I mean, and by a disgruntled student. No one even knows why, but she had two semi-automatic weapons, Councilwoman Z, and now they're like you said, they want to just say, hey, you could be 18 years old, you don't even need a permit.
Yeah,
That's one of the laws they're considering.
that's one of the laws. I got an email, heartbreaking email, from a grandmother whose grandchild was in school with these young kids. And she was telling me how she does not even know how her grandson is going to survive this. Same with her kids that are the parents that knows these people. People have to understand that when we putting this name up, these are actual people. These are somebody's child. These are people's friends, their loved ones, their father, their grandfather, their friends. And not just the ones that died, but it's the whole community that will be impacted forever. What is so shocking is that Miss Cynthia Peake, that passed away, is a friend, from what I understand, to our governor. And so you would think something will move very, very fast because it's so close to home. But no, people are still dragging their feet. People are still trying to, for whatever reason, be beholden to their guns and to the NRA at the sake of people's life. I don't know. It's unconscionable. It does not make sense.
Yeah, I mean, and we, it is. It's hard. I mean, again, words can fail. What the response was from many in the Tennessee legislature was absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah.
And when there was a protest, the response was that the folks in the cities, Nashville, Knoxville, three representatives, and one from Memphis, so cities that are hard hit. And it's not just cities, it's rural areas too. You saw Dadeville's a
Yes.
tiny little
Yes.
town there,
Yes. Yes.
3,000 people, not too far from Columbus, Georgia, which is where I got some of the news information. But this is a small town, bigger cities, Nashville. And Nashville's a beautiful city too, the downtown, but it's crime ridden. So I don't get it. Okay, so you have wealthy people living in these communities. They're being threatened. They have power. They have influence in Nashville, and we're talking about now the state government. And yet, like you said, nothing.
Yeah.
Bupkis,
So
to use a
so
Yiddish
so
term.
the problem is that you have the state legislature made up of people from rural Tennessee. You have people that have lesser population than Nashville making decisions that impacts the entire state. And so you have people in Nashville speaking out, people from the Covenant Church. We received a letter from the church that is with the Covenant School, where they were saying, when our three legislators were expelled, two of them wrote and said, no, put them back. They were speaking for the people. And so everybody that can speak up, I've seen conservatives, I've seen people from the church, I've seen people from the mosque, I've seen everybody come out and speak. The problem is that when you have these legislators that act as if it does not impact them, well, it happened in Nashville, maybe because it didn't happen in their hometown, it's not a crisis yet. And that's very wrong because they need to listen to the majority of the people. And the people of this state, I say, we're tired. We're tired. We cannot keep losing kids. So the problem is at the state legislature. That's where it's at. And people from the rural area need to join us, the mothers in rural Tennessee. I lived in rural Tennessee for 16 years. I love the people where I lived in Bolivar, and they're great people. But they let the legislature, not the one in Bolivar, but some of these areas, do what they want. So they need to get on their legislator. They need to be talking to them. They need to make sure that they do something because it's going to take all of us to stop this madness.
Well, I've been following a lot of the stories, what's going on there through your newspaper, The Tennessee, and I have to admit, I have to say, I think they've done a nice job. I feel like I've learned a lot just in the past couple of days because this is not, my city or anything like that, but I
Yes,
feel like
Tennessean, Tennessee Ola, Tennessee Tribune. I mean, Tennessee Ola is big on the social media, Tennessean and Tennessee Tribune. I mean, our papers have been doing an incredible job of getting the word out. It's just very sad. I wish they're covering better news, but unfortunately, this is where we are.
so you, meaning you as one of the voters, one of the councilwomen, I should say, excuse me, I guess in my throat. One of the council members, and again, it gets so it's the
I hope
Met.
I did not transmit that to you over the computer,
I,
right?
I don't know that that's ever happened. They can do a lot, right? But I know that maybe the artificial intelligence is finally
We
there.
need to look into. They always say yawning is contagious. Maybe coughing is too.
It
We have a study to look
it
into.
could be. It could. I've been enjoying. I have to say, I've been enjoying great health. I'm not. We're not quarantining now, but I don't see people. So isn't that terrible? Because we need people, but yet we also, when we're isolated, we don't get sick as much. At least I don't. The Tennessee in covering this. So you reinstated in the Metro Council Justin Jones from Nashville. And I think there was a, is there a Justin Pearson as well? Did I get
Yes,
that
there
right?
is a Justin Pearson in Memphis.
Okay. And he was also, is he also back in?
He's also back. We reinstated Justin Jones on Monday, and Justin Pearson was reinstated on Wednesday.
It turns out the people of Tennessee have gathered, and you can read this. I could feel the wall shaking there. Were you at the Capitol building, the old Capitol
Yes.
building, for this demonstration on the 6th?
Yes, yes, I
Can
was.
you describe it? Because you'll do an even better job than what the Tennessean did, and they did a good job.
I mean, they did a great job, but I think what was moving was that it was a whole lot of people, children, adults. People were upset, people were crying, people were consoling each other. Remember, we're still mourning, right? And then in the middle of all of this, there was this. So people were crying, people were upset, people, and every time the legislator says something, they will respond back. They were shaking the walls. I mean, it was very moving and very very powerful to be there. If anything, you would think based on that response from the people and seeing all of that, that I thought, something would happen. I thought that they would not expel this Jew like they did, because of that support that was right there. But no, no, they went ahead and still did that. They still did that, and so it was. Many of us were crying because we felt like even people that thought maybe the representatives should not have protested on the floor felt like the punishment does not fit the crime. This is in state legislatures where people have peed in each other's seats allegedly. This is a state legislature where we've had a child molester accused of child molestation stay for months before he was expelled. I mean, so the expulsion is meant for people that have done very serious offense. And here you are without due process, like in a kangaroo court, everything happening so fast without giving them the opportunity to defend themselves. And here you are expelling them. And to make things worse, to really make things worse, the three of them that got the resolution, that had the hearing, two black and one white, you all ended up expelling just the black legislators. And so everybody was crying racism because I don't know what compels somebody to say the white woman is justified in her action. And she's a good friend of mine, and she said the same thing. And the others are not. So people were upset. People were crying. I was crying. Um, I've known Justin Jones for a long time, and so it does not deserve that. When you look at the way they were talking to them on the floor, belittling them, talking down on them, not treating them as equal, it was really sad to watch, and people were witnessing all of that, especially the students, and so people were uh, very upset, and rightfully so.
No, it's horrible. It's the bad old South, right? It's not the
Yeah.
new South. It's not a somewhat progressive place where at least we saw the folks coming together in Dadeville, and we see it in Nashville. This is the nightmare South that we want to put behind us, but are not there yet. And I know will I mean, sadly, it's also part of human nature, right? Is that you try to
It, it,
find
it is.
ways to divide people, right?
People, people, and what I wanted to say is that somebody who's lived in the South for a long time now, 30 years, or close to, right? This is not all what we are in the South. We're very giving, we're very welcoming, we have Southern hospitalities. People care about their neighbors. Every day people smile and wave at you. We have our problems. Please don't, I'm not sugarcoating it. We have deep, deep, serious issues. Racism and Islamophobia and homophobia is all here too, but it's not the everyday people that you encounter, and it's not all that is here. And so these are Southerners that came together to protest. These are whites and black and old and Christian and young people and Muslim and Jews that protested the expulsion of these two black legislators. So we always come together. We always stand up together. And so there's a whole lot more to us. It's just that the people at the helm, the people that are making the decision, are tone deaf. They've made up their mind. They've decided this is what they're going to do. They're beholden to NRA and the gun lobbyists, and they're not listening to the people that they serve. They're not listening to the people of the state that overwhelmingly said, we want common sense gun laws. So it's at the legislative plaza. It's at the hands of the legislature. That's where the problem is. Everyday people said they're tired of this, and we are tired.
All right, we're talking to Councilwoman Z from Nashville, and I just put the video up of the reinstatement of Justin Jones, so we'll play this for you. I played it already, Councilwoman, but I do, and unfortunately the audio is slightly sketchy. We're going to do the best we can with it, and then maybe you can explain a little bit of what's happening here. So let me play this. Hopefully it'll work. Let me try it this way.
You, Mr. Vice Mayor. This afternoon's vote is unprecedented.
Representative Jones was honest about who he was, a bold and unapologetic advocate for the community. The people chose their representative, and with this vote, we will send a strong message to our state government and across the country that we will not tolerate threats to our democracy.
There you are, Councilwoman. I saw this. I said, there she is. I know her. All right, let's continue. Let's play the rest of it. And I'm going to pause it there just because you can see those two grumpy white guys, and I'm like, who are they?
The which grumpy white guy
Well,
in
there's the guy with the whitish, grayish hair, where it says, and there's one with a red shirt in front of him, sort of at the bottom. Do you see it? Can you see that?
Well, the good thing about that vote, though, is that everyone in that room voted unanimously to reinstate him. And I think that he spoke very well of our council. We don't always have to agree, but I think we need to do the right thing. Everyone in that room, whether they like Jones or not, was not the issue, right? It was about the voters of District 52 voted for him. They chose their representative. They knew who he is, and they know that he's been an activist and always will be an activist. They know that he speaks for them, and they want him to continue to do that. We got hundreds, if not thousands, of emails and calls that says we want him reinstated. And that's the way it should be. The state legislature should not determine who leads a community. That's the voters' job. And so the expulsion is a fast on democracy, is stifling the voice of the voters. And my colleagues in that room, no matter what their political affiliation, no matter what they think about Jones, no matter what it is, we all believe that at the end of the day, democracy should prevail. And that's what we did. So I'm very proud of every single one of them.
Maybe those
I
are,
think
could they be reporters or something else? Maybe those two aren't. Do you see who I'm talking about at the bottom? I'm wondering because the way where they're sitting, or are they also council members?
they are council
They are
members.
council members. Okay.
They are council
And
members,
they
yes.
voted to reinstate because they
And they voted
recognize
to
that's
reinstate,
awesome.
yes, yes. So yes, yes,
And
yes.
you can hear the crowd. I'm going to play the rest of the video. It's not much longer just because the excitement in the room is just so palpable. There it is.
Justin Jones has been elected as the interim successor for the vacant seat pursuant to the state laws and the rules governing the metropolitan
See, the gray hair guy got his foot now.
No, that's good. I should. Wow. So very exciting stuff there in the Tennessee Capitol. And you're making history there, Councilwoman. And I'm just going to get back. Let's just look and see. Let me just, because I want to just talk a little bit. We've been discussing the support, right? The support for smart gun control. We're not, and I might want to have no handguns whatsoever, but I know you're not going to get that through, and I know that's not what the folks in Tennessee want. I am not a complete gun eradicator or whatever. For example, I accept that people have legitimate uses for weapons to hunt or to target shoot, and I don't do that. I don't find that something I would ever enjoy, but there are poor folks. I knew a man, I always tell this story. I want liberal, super lefty liberals to know this story. A man I used to work with, his name was Dave. I remember him very well and his wife. He was a senior, but he also had to work. I was a young man working at a job, and he was an older, almost, I hate to say old. At that time, he was old. Now he's middle-aged compared to me. But he would go out and shoot an elk and take down an elk or two at the beginning of hunting season, Councilwoman, and they would, butcher it up and dry it, and that meat was important to them to help them sustain themselves. So I totally get that. I am not going to say no one should have guns, but I think it's clear that there's a consensus that people who have mental illness problems, people who have been violent towards a spouse or a companion, or who have committed a felony, they shouldn't have easy access to firearms. And yet they do.
Yeah, they do. And here's the other thing too, is that, when you look at the guns that is used in this mass shooting, they're not just handguns. They're military grade guns, right? The AK-15, AR-15, I don't even know all the names for all of them, right? But these are military grade. So people have access to willy-nilly. These are guns that someone was telling me that, and I don't know, I've not verified it, but that some of these guns cannot be used for duck hunting. Like they are prohibited from some of the hunting because of what it does to the animals, right? And so if we have rules that says you cannot use it to hunt some animals, but it's okay to carry it in and shoot little babies with. So that's where it gets crazy. People want to protect their guns. People want to have gun right. That's the Second Amendment right. But there should be common sense laws in terms of, like you said, who should have access. People should be able to laws in terms of how easy is it to get your hand on a gun, locking your guns, protecting your guns. I mean, these are things that is good for the people that wants to keep their guns as well. There's so many accidents with guns, even in homes that have guns. So there should be some sort of rules that could govern all of that. And more importantly, if somebody has a record, if somebody has mental illness, these are things that we all agree that at a minimum, that's the basic thing that we can do. And we're still not doing it, despite all of these killings.
I want to be mindful of your time. It's been a half hour, which I greatly appreciate. I just wanted to leave you with a final word and just point out here this poll. This is from 2022. I saw it in the Tennessean yesterday that a majority of Tennessee residents support stricter gun laws. We can see here that 71% of Americans last year said they need to be stricter. Half of Republicans and a majority of those in gun-owning households. So,
Yes.
final question, and then you wrap up. Yeah, and then you can wrap up, unless you want to tell us about the people, because I had asked you about this. I forgot the Poor People's Campaign, who are also working on gun control, and I know you were at their rally over the weekend. But what are you doing, if anything, or what is being done, if you know, to reach out to some of those gun-owning households, and you ask them to contact their legislators? Is there some kind of, I don't know, program or some kind of organizing going on to get these folks together?
So thank you for that question. So we're calling on different organizations that have statewide reach. I used to, I still am a member of the Business and Professional Women of Tennessee that has chapters throughout the state. And so we're calling on our members in those rural areas. And like you said, with the Moral Monday March yesterday, what Reverend Barber said is that this Moral Monday March will now be going to those rural areas. So there is a call for all the clergies, not just those in Nashville, but those in those areas as well. And I think there's plan for marches in those rural areas as well, to wake people up and say, look, this is happening everywhere, and you don't want to wait until it happens at your doorstep. We need to do something now. So there is a movement to do that. The other organization, I know Forward Tennessee is one of the organizations that is also working on not just on the gun laws, but generally about Tennesseans coming together about some of the bills that are targeting Tennesseans that impacts everybody across the state. We know we get a lot of preemption in Nashville. We know that, we're best friends with the states for whatever reason. Even though Nashville generates the most money for the state has been on our case. I mean, they just wanted to cut us in half. They wanted to take over. We just won that court case. They want to take over our airport, take over our convention. So they've been on our case. Our community oversight board, they're voting on disbanding that today as we speak. And so the state has been on our case for a long time. And so the organization that's been saying, look, don't look at this as a Nashville or Memphis or Knoxville or the urban area problem. Look at it as a Tennessee problem. And so there's a movement trying to galvanize people in rural areas to be able to see this as their problem too. And so that is going on, and that will continue to go on. And the moral campaign, I believe the next stop is Knoxville. That was the announcement yesterday. And then especially on the gun laws. And then there will be a whole lot more going on there. But I'm going to say people should please, if they have relatives in Tennessee, to talk to them, to encourage them. These are elected officials. We are the voters. The voters have the power. And they just need to tell the elected officials that this is what they want them to do so that we can have the change, a lasting change. The poll says it. People want this. People want this. As a mother, it hurts. It breaks my heart. Every time I read one of those stories, it's just, I don't even know how these mothers and the parents and the family are doing. I'll continue to keep them in my prayers, but prayers are not enough. We have to do something. We have to do something, and we have to all do it together and get something done.
So Z, I lied. I said I was going to let you go. I am going to let you go. You can always just hang up. But
I devoted an hour of my time for you, so just let me know.
I just opened the phone lines.
Good.
I opened the phone lines, and a phone call came in. So maybe we'll talk to John real quick, and then that'll be the end. So John, can you hear us?
I can hear you. I called in to talk about something else that I saw on CBS.
All right. So then if that is totally fine. Hang on. I'm going to mute you then, John. I'm going to thank Councilwoman Z, and then talk to you.
All right.
All right. So let me mute John. So fine. Thank you. That's all I got. Thank you so much. I hope we can
No
do it
problem.
again. It was
Thank you for
great.
having me.
It was great reconnecting too.
It's great, and I hope the next time we connect, we'll remember this time and say, look at all the changes that has happened since then. That is the hope. All this protest, all this expulsion, everything is for an action to happen. I'm hoping the next time we get together, you and I will be celebrating and say, see how far we've come. That's my hope. I hope that happens.
That would be lovely. That is a beautiful dream. I hope it's true. We'll see you soon, Councilwoman. Thank you so much. Keep up the amazing work. And let me get to John. We're going to let Z go if I can figure out my system here. I'm still working. I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
All right. You have a good one.
You
take
too.
care.
All right. So now
Bye-bye.
we can let her go. And now I think I'm going to unmute and I'm going to go to John. Do I still have you, John?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Hey, I know I'm kind of preaching to the choir here, but so yesterday I'm on YouTube and I see this CBS clip about how men between the ages of 25 and 55 are dropping out of the workforce entirely. And apparently that number is, I don't know, they compared it to a number during World War II, 98% of men in that age group were working. And now it's 89%. And so they had Mike Rowe on, and they're interviewing Mike Rowe and like, oh, what do you think is happening? And Mike Rowe is just like, well, I think he's alluding to, he thinks they're all getting a check from the government. And so CBS didn't do any further reporting on that. They didn't like fact check Mike Rowe or anything. They just said, well, some people on the right would say that, Uncle Sam's being very generous, and that's why these people aren't being pushed into the workforce. And some people say on the left, and I don't even remember what they said. It was just so ridiculous. And I was thinking, I'll bet you a lot of these young men have just crippling student debt, and they have to work under the table because their wages have been attached. They've completely given up on paying this debt. And therefore, I'm sure a lot of these creditors have gone after them and basically attached their wages. If they're going to, collect a paycheck, it's, part of it has to go to them. So they're just like probably doing cash gigs, but nobody looked into it. Nobody, there's like so many inferences that you can make from that number. And they just pulled two out of their pocket, one from each side. And they were both based on nothing.
John, I'm going to share. This is related to what you were talking about there, and the crisis in employment for older men, and we are just seeing so many issues with health and employment and jobs, and they're all connected. So these are just some interesting headlines. I don't know if you can see that, but I just thought this was very interesting that in the past, in fact, today, you have two articles in the Washington Post about health. One is how men's health is getting worse, and one about teen girls in crisis. There's also a headline in the past week about how black men are really doing terribly, and women as well, not just teen girls. So we have a crisis in America for pretty much everyone if they're not in the millionaire class. And this is why I'm going to, we have got to figure out how to have a government and a political party that is truly responsive to these crises, including the employment, including the debt crisis, and certainly the health crisis. And I think that's something we're all struggling with.
I think in the meantime, we have to figure out a way around the government. See, because if every time we do that, they throw up a roadblock. They say, no, you have to do it our way. And especially with the Supreme Court, anytime somebody finds a way to solve a problem on their own, they're like, no, we like it broken. So I can't off the top of my head give you an example, but I think that's what we're going to have to do, is figure out how to make our lives work without them and force them to keep throwing up these roadblocks until everybody gets it. Until everybody understands that, no, this is not a conspiracy theory. These people are trying to enslave you.
And they're getting close. They're getting close. I mean, we are in many, many ways less free, than we have been in recent years. And I'm not a person who sits here and says, oh, the past was so great, because there were so many problems then too. But when it comes at least to the plight of working people in our country, things are worse than they were 60 years ago. There's just no doubt about it. And we have got to figure out a way to get back to a
So
little bit more,
these articles
more
that
equality.
you read, oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. I'm done. I'm sorry. I didn't. You're on, John.
These articles that you read that pertain to what I called in about, did they give a reason why? You said it was, from what I gather, you were saying it's many different reasons, and did they really, did they expound that, or did they just kind of,
hopelessness, a sense that the future is not going to be better, a sense that they are not able, if they're males, and for whether that they're not able to provide for their families, which is for many men an important part of what they view as being a masculine person, and their identity is to support their family financially. So that's a big factor. I think for girls, a lot of it is social media is part of it, certainly not all of it, but also their future. Just for younger people in general, let's say it this way, the future isn't bright. It just isn't for so many. And that leads to despair.
So they're just giving up. I wonder, the first thing that was on my mind was like the amount of student debt that these kids are saddled with, or people, not kids, but some people my age too.
People die in debt to whoever lent them money or whoever helped pay for their college education.
So what it boils down to is the job is not going to get me financial freedom or security, so I will work only as much as I need to subsist, and then I'm going to get some quality of life out of just having time off. Is that kind of?
I mean, I can't speak to why everyone, John. I can't speak to every. Like you said, there are multiple reasons. I do think we're at a place where, and the hopelessness comes in from that, right? Because you have a job, but you're working for someone else. The money that you're earning from your hard work is paying off a debt that you've paid off many, many times. It's not like you haven't paid the $50,000 or the $75,000 or the $200,000 back, but the interest just keeps accumulating, and it keeps compounding, and you're never free.
Yeah.
So that's one factor, which is what you're talking about, and I think it's absolutely correct. I agree with you. We have to find a way around the government. One thing that people are doing is they're just not going to college. They recognize that this is not a ticket to a better life. But it's sad because colleges should be a lot more than just increasing your future expected earnings. It should be about a lot more than that. It should be about building knowledge, information, developing ways of looking at the world that enrich your life and that can enrich others' lives as well. So we lose something when so many Americans choose not to go to college. That said, I don't believe it is for everyone. I think that for many people, and it's certainly no slander, slur, or criticism of them, for many people going into the workplace world makes all the sense in the world. And then if you want to go back to get a higher education later on in life, then maybe that's a better time. I wasn't ready for college at 18. I would have been better served continuing to work as a restaurant server or in a resort or something of that nature, I think, for a couple of years before I went to school.
Well, you know what's interesting too, but about this CBS report was that they said that it wasn't for a lack of good paying jobs. They said there were good paying jobs out there. And I guess right now there's almost 1 million manufacturing jobs in the United States that are going unfilled. It's skilled labor, but they interviewed a few people in these industries and said it's really not that hard to get in, at the ground level. And I'm thinking, well, and they say these jobs pay like on average about $30 an hour. So that's not bad. That's not bad. And if you're young and your health insurance costs are pretty low, then I'm assuming if you make 30 an hour, you can save. You can pay for everything you need and save a little bit. Where they fell short was explaining why. They just threw a few guesses out there. They really gave Mike Rowe a lot more time than that little 3-second comment that they made about the left side, because Mike Rowe was in there joking with somebody and says, "Gee, I wonder why these guys aren't working. Maybe they have somebody supporting them." And then and the other guy says, "Oh, you mean like a rich parents?" He said, "Oh, or more like a rich uncle, Uncle Sam," is basically what he was alluding to.
Wow.
And so they're letting Mike Rowe do this on the air, and they're giving him about a minute to do this. And then the reporter at the end says, "Well, on the right, they say that, a lot of these people are just being supported by the government. And on the left, they made a really vague statement." I got to watch that again. They made just a really vague statement, and that was definitely not equal coverage. I mean, I bet you if you put Bernie on there, he would have just roasted Mike Rowe and probably given us some insight on this,
John, before I let you go, I got to run. I'm going to wrap things up in a moment, but I have a question. I hope you can respond. If you don't, it's fine. I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but I just really, really appreciated the conversation I had with Councilwoman Z, and I was wondering if you caught any of it and if you had any reaction, because I just think there are good people all over this country who are trying to make things better, and we've got to figure out how to work with them, including on the other side of the aisle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think so. She was one of the ones that reappointed Justin
Jones. Yes, yeah,
back in Tennessee.
Correct, in Tennessee. Correct.
Yeah, it was the right move. I think it would have been okay to fine him for disrupting the the proceedings there. He is a member of the Congress there, and he should have, as much as it was like a more theater than anything. I don't know, maybe his response was appropriate, but the punishment was definitely way too harsh. Kicking him out.
Yeah, and I'm going to take issue with what you said about the punishment. I'll let you get a last word, because I know folks don't like it when I respond. I let them go and then I respond. I know that's frustrating. I think under the circumstances, the disruptive nature of the protests were wholly appropriate. We're talking about 6 people gunned down, and a legislature that has, over the past few years, consistently loosened every restriction on gun ownership and is now considering allowing 18-year-olds to carry concealed without a permit.
Okay, and I'll push back on myself too and say that it was probably appropriate, because that legislature, I know Tennessee is gerrymandered, and that legislature is just a joke. It's theater more than anything. So if he wants to be dramatic, it's probably very appropriate.
Well, Z made the point that they're not representative, which is exactly what you just said. The rural districts wield disproportionate power in Tennessee.
Without a doubt. Yeah, they hold 72% of the seats, right?
I don't have the numbers. You are better versed than I am, and I'm basing that on what she said.
Yeah, Tennessee would be, I think Tennessee would be a fairly even divided. I think it would still be a red state, but it would be.
It would probably be like 57-43 or 55-45, not whatever it is. I mean, because you have
not 72-20. Yeah,
there are 4 good-sized Democratic cities in Tennessee: Memphis, Nashville, Chattanooga, and Knoxville. And it's true that those are more evenly divided, right? So those might be 65, depending on the city. I think Nashville's pretty Democratic, and maybe Memphis too. The rural areas are going to be 85-90% Republican, but there are more people in the cities. John, I got to let you go, man. I really, really want to thank you for the call. I love getting calls. People know that. I want to talk to you. That's the reason I do this show live more than any other, because I want to talk to you. I learn from you. You catch me out, and then I can be better. So we'll be back tomorrow. Again, all the props. Oh, I got to take that thing out. All the props in the world to Councilwoman Z. It was great to catch up with Zulfat. She is a wonderful person. She's great people, like many of the folks I've talked to and visited in the South. And we just hope we can all work together to make life a little better for, well, in this case, for everyone, because none of us are safe. And again, fighting for poor, struggling, working people across the country. I'll be back tomorrow. Have a great day. And don't forget, click that like and click subscribe. Subscribe is your bottom right. It's a white and blue square. I want you to click that right